So after Alexandre Pantoja scored his impressive second round submission win over Brandon Royval, he made a call out afterwards in his post-fight speech, which in my opinion definitely solidified himself as the next guy to fight for the belt in the flyweight division against Brandon Moreno, who was in attendance at the time, and they had a little bit of a back and forth encounter where Alexandre Pantoja may have had one of the nicest call outs of all time, and Daniel Cormier even commented on it as it happened. Either way, Alexandre Pantoja also has 2 wins over Brandon Moreno. Even though it's not technically 2 wins, he beat Brandon Moreno on The Ultimate Fighter, which counts as an exhibition matchup. He also beat Brandon Moreno in the UFC not too long ago in his career, and he beat him very, very impressively by 30-26 unanimous decision. So this will be an official rematch between the pair of them, but to have a win over the current champion and have a call out in the cage while the champion is there in person, watching and commenting on your fight, he basically solidified his next title shot. Now, I do understand Askar Askarov defeated Alexandre Pantoja. However, Askar Askarov also missed weight in his last bout. And the UFC, history shows us that other than Darren Till, they don't really like it when you miss weight in their division, and they don't really give you a chance to fight for the title afterwards, because if you're missing 126 pounds, you've only got to cut another pound to make championship weight, so they don't really like to see that. Only in certain cases do they allow that situation to happen when they're desperate for a title contender, but right now they've got options in the 125-pound division, and for Pantoja to call out Moreno, he's got the title shot. Let's talk about my prediction. I feel as though Brandon Moreno is way more improved since their earlier fights that they had in their career, and I do believe that Brandon Moreno would get the win if that fight is made next against Alexandre Pantoja. I would see Brandon Moreno not finishing Alexandre Pantoja, even though he did get an amazing finish over Davison Figueiredo. I think that was also partly due to Davison Figueiredo not really showing up in full capacity. We won't get into the conspiracy theories, but whatever. He got a win over Davison Figueiredo by finish, so a lot of people might go out there and say, he's going to finish Pantoja as well, Moreno's going to finish everyone. Man, I don't know. I know that Moreno has improved, but I don't think he's improved enough to completely wipe out and shut out Alexandre Pantoja, who's great at submissions himself, so I don't see him getting submitted by Moreno in the early rounds of this fight, who's got a great chin and more power than Moreno as well, so I don't see Moreno gritting down and getting a TKO early. I'd see Moreno in this fight getting himself a unanimous decision, 48-47, in a fight of the night performance on whatever card it's on, hopefully in December. That would be ideal to add to that card. I think Brandon Moreno would have the cardio advantage here in the later 3 rounds of this fight against Pantoja, but I do see him having real trouble against Pantoja in the early 2 rounds of their fight. I went back and watched the first fight between Brandon Moreno and Alexandre Pantoja. Listen, the first time on The Ultimate Fighter, Moreno is ridiculously young. I understand, okay? But he got easily submitted once it hit the ground, but then before that he was actually winning against Alexandre Pantoja on the feet and surprising everyone as the bottom seed on TUF. Alexandre Pantoja was the number 1 seed, Brandon Moreno was the number 15 or 16 seed. They matched them up together to get a free win for Alexandre Pantoja, and he actually lost the first round, and Moreno was starting to piece him up in the second round as well. Then Pantoja switched it up completely, went for the takedown, immediately got the rear naked choke because Moreno, I guess, just wasn't that developed in his grappling game yet, and just gave up the rear naked choke pretty easily, much how Figueiredo did to him in their title rematch. Either way, Alexandre Pantoja had an amazing performance the first time on TUF. That never happened. It's an exhibition bout, so it doesn't really count. The next time they showed off together, this was the one where it's like, Moreno was the younger guy. Pantoja was the way more improved guy from The Ultimate Fighter, because he went from not really being able to outstrike Brandon Moreno to just absolutely annihilating him on the feet, chopping up his legs. I think he shattered the nose of Brandon Moreno in the first round and rocked him really badly, finished on his back, landing big shots of ground and pound, enough to get him a 10-8 round. It was kind of a 10-8 round if you count into all of the damage that went down, but back then, I actually don't think it should have been a 10-8 round. Nowadays, you look at that round, you think, yeah, that's a 10-8 round easily. Back then, when you watch it, 10-8 rounds used to be very hard to come by, and I don't think it should have been scored that way back then, but it was a dominant round. He didn't get knocked down all over the place and dropped twice and almost finish on the ground multiple times. It was just a very clear win with a lot of damage in there as well, and Moreno got rocked a couple of times, but even in the second round and the third round, Pantoja was just another level to Moreno on the feet, and it was very obvious. However, When I go back and watch the first fight between Alexandre Pantoja and Brandon Royval, the official first fight, the 30-26 decision win to Pantoja, I see Alexandre Pantoja and a man who I do not recognize in any way whatsoever that's on the other side of the cage. That's my opinion on this fight. I see pretty much a similar version of Alexandre Pantoja, close to his prime anyway, looking really good against Moreno, doing what he kind of does nowadays anyway. And then a Brandon Moreno who's just constantly trying switch kicks to the head, trying out some wheel kicks in there as well. You don't really see that style from Moreno anymore. He's a little bit more boxing heavy, keeps it very simple nowadays rather than getting too wild here and there. I think he's improved massively since that first fight, or official first fight that they had. And I think he's going to win this rematch because I've seen Pantoja slow down in the third round and even towards the second round of a lot of fights recently under high pressure and high pace. And I think that Brandon Moreno can bring that high pressure and high pace. And his chin is ridiculously good. And his boxing's gotten way better. And his head movement's gotten way better. And his jab has gotten way better. And that's now allowing him to set up everything else in his game as well to land off of. I feel like Moreno would be able to survive early and then start turning the tide in the third, fourth and fifth round and win those ones and secure himself a decision win. But man, it's a tough fight. And I don't think that Moreno's going to be a big favourite here. I think he's going to be, well, he lost the first time, so he might not even be a favourite. But I would assume that the odds makers are going to make him like a close to a 2-1 favourite. I don't think they should do that, but that would be my prediction on the odds of that fight. I think he should be a slight favourite here because Pantoja is ridiculously good and he can choke you out of nowhere. And he can latch up a triangle out of nowhere. And he can KO you with one punch out of nowhere. He was rocking Moreno the first time. His boxing's going to have gotten better since then. He could catch him and put him out cold this time. I doubt that's going to happen because it's Brandon Moreno and he has a great chin. I do see Moreno winning this one, but man, it is a tough fight. But one thing I do notice there is a difference between their second fight, their first official fight, and now, is that Moreno's jab is there. It exists as a weapon. In the fight that they had before where Moreno lost by unanimous decision, it just wasn't even a weapon that he had. He was just pouring out his lead hand, trying to land winging overhooks against Alexandre Pantoja, and he was just being beaten to the punch by a more technical opponent who is a little less wild, a little bit more compact, a little bit more precise, and he was just beating Moreno to the punch every single time and smacking his head back all over the place. Every single exchange they had, I'm not joking. Every time Moreno tried to throw something at Pantoja, he would wing a massive shot, and then Pantoja would just fucking stick him right on the chin, and Moreno would be like, fuck, okay, cool, I'll just back up a little bit again, and then Pantoja would start going after him, and then Moreno would try another exchange, and Pantoja would just fucking smack him on the chin again, pop his head right back, and Moreno would be like, fuck, what do I do here? Just back up again, and hopefully there's an opening down the line. Like, it was really actually kind of a demoralizing performance from Alexandre Pantoja. He demoralized Brandon Moreno in there. Maybe there's going to be some of that in the back of Moreno's mind, going out there against Pantoja in another fight. The fact that he knows that he lost dominantly the second time and got submitted the first time as well. But I think Moreno's got this one in the bag. One thing that's definitely improved is his jab. It's there nowadays. It was not there in any of the other fights. He's like pouring with it. There's no like conviction with the jab that he's throwing in any way whatsoever. Like he's just pouring it out there, using it as sort of like a fake, and then just starting to swing overhands. He has no real intention of landing a jab on Alexandre Pantoja in their first fight, and he doesn't really have any other weapons either. But in his fights with Deiveson Figueiredo, he's dropping Figueiredo with jabs. You know what I mean? He's setting him up with jabs the whole time. Against Royval, he tagged Royval with a couple of nice jabs straight on the chin. Against Kai Kara France, it was his main weapon that he had. I feel like that's going to be the difference here. I think now that he can establish a jab, he's not just going to be out there trading overhands with Pantoja, because if he does that, he'll lose. And I think he can beat Pantoja at range with front kicks, with leg kicks, with jabs, and eventually just stay out of range of the damage long enough in the early 2 rounds, make Pantoja miss a little bit, and then start working him as the rounds go on when Pantoja starts to get tired. Because another thing that has improved in Brandon Moreno recently as well is the grappling. Night and day from what it used to be. He didn't really have too much back in the day. He was a good scrambler. He'd get a couple of submissions. He got a guillotine win, I believe, over Lewis Smolker at one point or something like that. He's got great submission skills, and he's good at grappling back then even. But nowadays, the grappling is night and day. It's very easy to look good in grappling against a low-tier guy in a division. But when you start looking good in the grappling exchanges against Hussier Formiga, when he's like actually reasonably still close to his prime as well, that starts to become a bit of a different situation. Now you've learned grappling that you could implement at the highest level, and then what do you know, he goes on and submits Davis and Figueiredo in the second round of their fight, or the third round of their fight, I believe it was, in their rematch, and even in the first fight as well, showed great scrambles against Figueiredo there, had some top control time, took him down a couple of times. I think that's going to be the difference in the fights. Pantoja looks reasonably similar to me. He looks kind of like the same guy. Maybe he's improved technically here and there. Maybe his mindset has improved a little bit as well. But man, I'm seeing him slow down in these later rounds, and that's not a good sign in the flyweight division. And he does throw very hard trying to KO his opponents. I don't see him getting a finish on Moreno, and if this makes it to championship rounds, Moreno's going to take over in my opinion. But it's a great scrap now. Should it be happening? I think kind of so. If they're going to make it active and they're going to give Askarov maybe another fight in the meantime, I'm okay with it, in all honesty. I think if Askarov beats, let's say, Jesus, who is Askarov going to fight? Askarov said he's ready to go right now, so I have no idea who Askarov is going to consider taking on in the flyweight division whatsoever, really. There's not really anyone right now for him, so I guess he's going to have to wait on the sidelines. But if he waits on the sidelines and Garbrandt beats Kai Kara France in the meantime in December, Moreno's going to start calling out Cody Garbrandt for that big money fight. I guess you could do... Shit. You know what I wouldn't mind them doing? Askarov versus Figueiredo as like the fight night main event. And then like a really strong co-main event. And I mean a ridiculously strong co-main event. To really save the... I know the flyweights aren't the biggest of names. To me, that's a huge fight. Figueiredo versus Askarov, main event of a fight night. But I think they should do that with like a really strong co-main. So maybe they do January, February of 2022, something like that. Or maybe December at the end of the year. They would do something like Askarov versus Davis and Figueiredo in the main event of a fight night, and then the co-main event Uriah Hall versus Kelvin Gastelum. That's what I think they should do, something like that. Or maybe like a Jeff Neal versus some fucking guy. Like Figueiredo, Askarov main event, January next year maybe. Co-main event, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Michael Chiesa. Just to bulk up the main event, make it an occasion worth watching, and make there something to gain out of the winner of that fight as well, because they're going to be in the spotlight. They're going to be a bigger name than ever. I think that's the matchup they should go with right now while Pantoja fights for the belt. It's kind of hard to deny him when he does have 2 official wins over Brandon Moreno, even though one of them is an exhibition fight. It's still footage online of Moreno tapping to a rear naked choke against Pantoja, so... I just think Moreno's made so many more improvements. I don't recognize him when I watch the old fight. I completely recognize Pantoja and everything he does. And I think he's going to get tagged with some jabs. It's going to make him less aggressive. It's going to make him trust his power a little bit less. He's not going to throw as much. It's going to open up more abilities for Brandon Moreno to go to the body, which he was actually doing in the first official Pantoja. So fucking annoying. First official, second official, but not really. Like, just I wish I could just say the last fight. The last fight that they had, Moreno went to the body actually quite well, but he didn't do it early enough because he was getting really badly rocked in the first round. Also in the first round, as I said before, his nose completely shattered. So that is definitely going to be a factor in it. I doubt it's something that's going to happen again. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a real low chance that in a rematch, Moreno gets his nose shattered in the first round. It happened the first time, and it was surely a shock to him, and he was holding his face like, fuck, what have I been hit with? And he was kind of like staggering all over the place. Pantoja started to put on pressure, but Moreno recovered. I just feel like without a shattered nose, a more clear mind, a championship mindset, knowing that he's the best now rather than a young guy who is the number 15 seed on tough and maybe doesn't feel like he belongs in a division and he's taking on a tough guy who beat him before. I think now he's got that championship mindset, training with Canelo with his boxing. I think he's really going to put on a show against Pantoja, but I see an amazing scrap. And I'll tell you this, Pantoja wins definitely the first round, 100% the first round in my opinion. Second round, I'll give it Pantoja's way. Third round, I'll give it Moreno's way. Fourth and fifth, Moreno's tuning the fuck out of him. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. That's how I feel like that matchup goes down. But it's a great one, and I guess the loser could take on... Shit, I don't give a fuck about the loser, in all honesty. We'll do this versus the winner of Figueiredo versus Askarov. I know Cody Garbrandt thinks he's getting a title shot by beating Kai Kara France, and I know that Moreno is begging for that as well, but listen, yeah, Figueiredo, Askarov, man the fuck up. Neither of you are going to get a title shot, and if you both sit out on the sidelines, Garbrandt's going to get a title shot if he KOs Kara France. Let's be real. I know that maybe Garbrandt doesn't beat Cara France, but if he goes out there and gets a big KO, all of a sudden no one cares about Figueiredo and Askarov anymore, and Moreno's cage side, and Garbrandt's calling him out for a finish, saying he's going to whoop his ass, and all of a sudden that's all the headlines are talking about. I think Figueiredo and Askarov need to man up, fight each other, eliminate each other as options for a title shot, get a big win and a spotlight win, and get all the momentum behind you for a call out again. Because if Figueiredo wins, listen, Figueiredo gave Moreno a rematch. I know it wasn't really his choice, but he was a defending champ. He gave the rematch. He lost the rematch quite convincingly, don't get me wrong, but they ain't going to hold him back as the number 1 guy if he beats number 2, who has a draw to Moreno, by the way, including himself, who has a draw to Moreno. I think Figueiredo fights Askarov, and then we'll do the winner of Cara France versus Cody Garbrandt versus the winner of Alex Perez, Joseph Benavidez too. Maybe we can get a bit of another Team Alpha Male rivalry with Joseph Benavidez and Cody Garbrandt again. That'd be pretty cool. But those are the matchups I want to see. Like and subscribe. Wait, Perez is fighting Matt Schnell. Okay, the winner of Perez versus Schnell versus the winner of Cara France Garbrandt for a title shot afterwards. Now, fuck off. And subscribe, actually. Don't fuck off yet. Subscribe first, I'm sorry. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later.